What is up, YouTube? It's me, Hey Archer. Welcome back to my channel. It has been about a week, maybe a week and a half since the last video, based on when you're watching this video. Today is a very, very important video. So, if you are new to this channel, don't forget like, comment, and subscribe to Hey Archer. And you can see down below in the link, I'll have my social media posted. So if you have any questions or if you have any thoughts, you can either leave them down below in the comment section or leave them on my social media. I didn't intentionally not make videos over the last week and a half, but I did intentionally not make a video about Terminator. Yes, Terminator Dark Fate has now been out for about 7 days. Came out last Thursday. And going into this movie, there were a lot of mixed feelings about it, coming from not only myself, but the fan base. So what I want to do is kind of paint the picture as to what the movie was like going into it, what it was like coming out of the movie, and where I think this should go forward. But before I do that, I will say this. In this video, I will have spoilers. However, because I'm kind of going to be doing a discussion on the movie as a whole, even encompassing the things outside of the actual movie, I'm gonna kind of split the video into two parts. So at a certain point, I will put up a spoiler kind of, thing here on the screen, so you know that if you didn't see the movie, to stop now. But in the beginning part, I'm just gonna give you some kind of dialogue and my thoughts about the movie as a whole and just the nerd culture as a whole and where Terminator goes from here. As many of you may or may not know, depending on how deep into the rabbit hole you are, there's a big issue. There's a big battle going on in the nerd world, right? You have the production studios, the TV channels, media as a whole. Media as a whole currently is extremely left-wing, right? And I hate to kind of bring politics into this, but you'll see where this goes. So the media right now is extremely left as far as who's controlling and putting out content, right? Now, the nerd world is a mixed mash. The nerd world is people of all races, genders, creeds, that whole thing, right? Now, due to the political nature of the US, where we are and where we've been for the last 3 years, there has been kind of a pushback effect that has happened. And in doing so, what a lot of these movie companies have done is they've really pushed political ideologies and views into their movies and media. And in doing so, whenever somebody comes out against a movie for it, all of a sudden there's this whole back and forth of name calling and, your whatever. So when this all kind of started, it was around the time, the order might be a little mixed up here, but it's somewhere in between The Force Awakens, the Ghostbusters reboot, and The Last Jedi. Somewhere in there, the battle really took place. And there's tons of videos online to kind of tell you about all this if you really want the details. But essentially what happens is all of a sudden you have all these franchises where you traditionally had a certain kind of character or maybe a group of characters, and then because of identity politics is what they call it, all of a sudden you start race swapping, gender swapping characters to make a new story. Now, there's been plenty of examples of where this works, and I think I made a video about that at some point in the past. Plenty of examples where this worked. The problem is that if you do it in a franchise that has a really hardcore fan base and you're not doing it for the betterment of a story, you're doing it to push some sort of agenda, there's going to be some pushback. And it's not necessarily because the fans are against the progression of a story. If it's a good story, it's more so because you're pushing it potentially to push whatever the political view you have that you're trying to do. So Ghostbusters happens. Ghostbusters comes out, and they decided this was going to be kind of a reboot. I didn't see the movie personally, but according to the internet, the movie's terrible. And what they did was they made the whole Ghostbuster cast just women. So they made the Ghostbusters women. They took I forget her name at the top of my head, whatever the secretary was, and then they made her a guy, so they kind of just like swapped everything. And that was just their attempt to, I guess, redo the franchise. The fans, especially the hardcore Ghostbuster fans, did not like that movie. The way that a movie can make a lot of money as a franchise is not just the movie sales, but everything as a whole. So, repeat viewings, merchandise, all that kind of stuff. So the movie tanks as far as all of that goes on all fronts. And the industry goes, well, obviously it tanked. The fans are either misogynist or racist and didn't want to see the movie. And the fans, kind of threw their hands in the air and said, whoa, it's not that they're against those kind of things, it's just that the movie's terrible. And that's actually proven by the fact that they're making a new Ghostbusters movie now with the original cast based on who's alive at the moment. So that was kind of one of those initial, like, what are you talking about? We're just saying this is terrible. You just gave us crap and we're telling you it's crap. But a back and forth started. All of a sudden you have Star Wars and the same thing kind of happens. They get rid of old characters, bring in new characters. It doesn't help progress the story at all. Huge backlash. Hollywood goes, you guys just don't like it because you're racist, misogynist, all that stuff. Again, the fans, whoa, not the case. Shitty story. It's just a shitty story. So it goes on and on and on. Captain Marvel was another big one where that happened. And we all of a sudden arrive at Terminator. And once Terminator arrives, you have a fan base that has already been heartbroken over this franchise, right? So Terminator 1, amazing movie. T2, phenomenal movie. You could say that's a benchmark for what action movies should be, and where, once that movie came out, it kind of changed even how productions go on a movie. After that, you had failure after failure, with the exception of the Sarah Connor Chronicles, the TV show. It did get canceled, but it's one of those shows where even though it didn't make a lot of money based on viewership, because it didn't get like the masses as a whole, it did have the hardcores watching it. And there's something that you guys should know, is that if the hardcores are into a show but the masses are not, or even a movie or a franchise, it's probably going to get canceled. Because as much as the hardcores love something, there's not enough of them to justify the whole viewpoint, or to, like I should say, there's not enough of them to fill in millions and millions of views instead of just thousands of views. So the fans have been, and I include myself, we go watch the movies and we just know that, all right, it's not going to be T2. They'll try. Arnold will show up. Arnold will throw some one-liners out there, and you got Terminator, right? So they announced this movie, and you also have an issue in Hollywood where they're doing this like kind of half reboot type of thing. Is they'll take a movie that has sequels and they'll say, okay, in this entire list of sequels, we're gonna cut it here, say that all of this no longer is relevant, and this new sequel we make, we're gonna put here, and that's your new progression of a story, right? So the last movie that came out that was popular that was the Halloween franchise. The last Halloween movie that came out this year, or that might have been last year, that takes place after Halloween 2, maybe, or actually I think it's after Halloween 1, if I remember. Everything else is now no longer canon or relevant. So they announced that they're going to do this with Terminator. So fans are already kind of like, all right, whatever, like, we'll watch it. What do you have to lose? We know it's going to suck. Okay. So all of a sudden we get excited because James Cameron's attached to it. He wasn't really that involved in the previous movies. Okay. You got an interest. They somehow got Linda Hamilton back. So now, okay, you really got our interest. So now we're really having those flashbacks of T2, and we're like, maybe there's a chance here. All of a sudden they show the trailers, and the fans immediately got pissed because they're like, all right, you're bringing in a new kind of like main character that we're protecting. It doesn't look like it's John Connor. It's a woman. And then now the Terminator that came back is a woman, which has happened before, but the way that they were advertising her in the trailers and in the media, people kind of already were getting those vibes of, here we go again. If the movie tanks, they're going to say we're sexist and all that kind of stuff. She doesn't need a man to protect her and all that. They're gonna blame that on the failure of the movie, right? Which is actually currently happening if you look it up. So the fans are like, all right, you know what? Screw this. We're already upset with Terminator as a franchise. Now they're definitely bringing in they're bringing in all these identity politics and stuff. So you know what? We're just gonna call it a day. We're not even gonna watch this. We hope it bombs. All that being said, and I know that went on for a little bit, but you have to know the backstory here. All that being said, my friend says, let's go see Terminator last week. It was the Friday after it came out. And again, no expectations here. I went to the crappy movie theater that has the matinee because the good movie theater doesn't do that on Fridays. And was like, all right, let's just see what happens. Wow. Terminator Dark Fate is actually a really good movie. Okay? Terminator Dark Fate, I don't care what any of these people say online. Anybody who's a fan of Terminator and does not like Terminator Dark Fate is not watching it through a true fan's eyes, right? It's one of those where it's almost like you have your hands on your ears and somebody's telling you, listen, dude, you're wearing a red shirt. And you're like, no, I'm wearing a blue shirt. And they're trying to tell you you're wearing a red shirt and they're trying to explain it to you, but you're refusing to listen because your hands are on your ears. That's what Terminator Dark Fate is. Terminator Dark Fate is being attacked by the fan base because of that whole history I was just telling you. But it's turning out to be a casualty in this war, and it doesn't necessarily have to be that, right? It's already a failure. The movie's done. The franchise is probably done because it's not making its money back, and it's a shame because you actually have a good Terminator movie that actually, unlike all the other ones, progresses the story in a way that makes sense, right? Now, there are points in the movie, and I'll get into that once we get into the spoiler area. There are points in the movie where people do have a reason to be upset. I won't disagree with that. But as a whole, this movie progresses the franchise. It allows things to make sense, and it actually takes bits of what's already been established to help push the franchise go forward. The story, it's not trying to reinvent the wheel here. Nothing too crazy about it. The story is good. The acting is really good. And the way that they explain how things have gotten to this point, everything you see in the trailer, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Now, there's one complaint I will have on this movie. Again, this is not a spoiler. I have a complaint about this movie, and I've had this complaint about Terminator in general. And I might have brought this up actually in my trailer reaction, which I'll link up above. But it's the concept that when these Terminators come back, they're so overpowered that the good guys just don't have a chance of winning. It's more of like they keep trying to slow it down. And especially with these now, like liquid metal, well, they already started liquid metal in T2, but with the whole liquid metal thing, to me, it just bothers me because they're shooting it just reforms itself. They're shooting it reforms itself. And now we've kind of already crossed that line where you probably can't downgrade the Terminators to an extent, because then it's like, all right, well, you've already brought them up to a certain level. And as I said before, this is nothing new. You've seen this in the trailer. The Terminator has the ability to split itself, and it's liquid metal, it can turn into more than one and all that kind of thing. If we do get another movie, TV show, whatever it may be, I want them to take from Avengers, right? And what I mean is, in Avengers, once we got to Infinity War and Endgame, Tony Stark made a suit that was all nanobot, right? So the suit, it lived inside his chest piece, and the nanobots come out. They create the suit. They allow him to still shoot plasma beams and fly and morph into whatever he needs and all that stuff. But there's a finite, there's a limit to what they can do. There's a limit to how much they can form. There's a limit to how often they can actually regenerate. And you see that when Iron Man is fighting Thanos. Thanos is ripping the suit apart, and Tony's rebuilding the suit as he's fighting. But at a certain point, it can't rebuild anymore. At a certain point, it's been broken down so much that those nanobots just don't exist. They've been crushed. They've been melted. They've been tossed aside. And I think Terminator needs that, because if you can at least have that, and maybe even have multiple Terminators, at least there's a back and forth battle. When you watch these movies, there's really not a back and forth. As I mentioned, they're slowing it down, and yes, the enemy Terminator is fighting back, but there's no back and forth. It's really just a one-sided type of thing. So that would be my only complaint on that. However, now I want to cross into spoiler territory. So if you have not watched Terminator Dark Fate, 1, you should. 2, come back and maybe watch after, you've seen it, so we could talk about these spoilers, and we can talk about the spoilers in the comment section. But if you don't care about spoilers, just hang tight. We'll get into that real quick. So, spoilers in 3, 2, 1, spoilers. Biggest issue a lot of the fans have, and I think it's a nitpick, but I understand where they're coming from, is the fact that they killed John Connor off in the first 5 minutes of this movie. Now, reason being is there was rumor, and I think James Cameron might have even said it. He said that the original actor that played John Connor would be back in this movie. I don't know if he was, but there was de-aging in the movie of John Connor and Sarah Connor. And as you saw, what happens is they are, in a hideaway in like Mexico or something. Terminator actually shows up. She wasn't expecting it. Terminator shows up and mows him down. Fans freaked. I looked online, fans were pissed because they're like, all right, you're doing that identity politics thing again. You're killing off the male hero to bring in a female hero. We know where this is going. Here's why that needed to happen to me, right? And you guys, I would love for you to comment down below. Here's why that needs to happen to me. This movie takes place in current day, 2019. And we've successfully, or I say we, well, yeah, humans, as far as the movie franchise goes, has successfully continued to delay Judgment Day. And Sarah Connor has successfully delayed Judgment Day. But the whole premise of Terminator, and this was in Terminator Salvation, in Terminator Rise of the Machines, the whole concept of that movie was that you can't stop Judgment Day. It's going to happen at some point. It could be now. It could be later. It doesn't matter. At a certain point, because destiny has to happen. The script has been made to the world and the universe. Because things have to happen, Judgment Day will happen at some point, whether John Connor is there or not, whether Sarah Connor is there or not. And that's kind of the point to this movie. In this movie, when they kill John Connor, Sarah Connor's still alive. And she's like, all right, well, my whole mission of protecting him to save humanity is over. All I could do now is fight Terminators. And it turns out, as you saw, she was finding Terminators to fight via the Terminator that actually killed her son. Because once it killed John Connor, it was stuck there. It no longer had a mission. And its programming is to assimilate to humanity. It ends up doing that. So she now is Sarah Connor in name, but she's not the Sarah Connor that we all grew up with. She's now just another human because her mission to keep John alive has also failed. So that's where there's a parallel between her and the old school Terminator that we all know and love. So because that happens, but because Judgment Day still has to happen, Destiny has created a new John Connor. And because it's created a new John Connor, that John Connor had to send somebody back to protect him. In this case, it ends up being a woman on both ends. And there's even the scene in the movie where Sarah goes, "You are John Connor." She's like, it's not that you're going to give birth to a John Connor. You are the new John Connor. And that's where a lot of fans got pissed. Because they're like, no, like, we do have a John Connor. You can't do that. You can't just kill a character off like Star Wars. Again, a lot of this has to do with what has happened in the past. Because in Star Wars, they're currently killing off all of your characters that you love. They're like, now you're doing this in Terminator. But the thing is, you have to. I think the only way I would have swapped this, if anything, if it was me, was, all right, we'll kill Sarah Connor, right? Because that's already been done. We've already seen John Connor in a world without Sarah. Kill Sarah Connor. John Connor somehow lives. Maybe he kills the Terminator. Maybe the Terminator thinks he's dead, but he's not. I don't know. But as he goes on and as he grows up, he realizes that, wait, the Terminators are now hunting somebody else. So maybe it turns out that I don't end up being the savior of humanity. Maybe there's a change that happens there. But I think it's more, it brings a story full circle, I think, if it starts with Sarah Connor and eventually at some point it will end with her, but let's continue her story arc. Because there's lots of character development there happening with Sarah Connor. She goes from being the mother of the savior to now she's just a normal person. And that's not what she thought her life would be. It just changed up on her. The plan changed. And just like the way the plan changes, that's how Terminator changes and how the future changes to adapt to that. So to me, that made it a far more interesting movie. I might stand alone on that. I know there are some people who like it. There's a whole lot of people who don't. But to me, that's what makes this a standout movie. And it's the type of movie you need to keep the franchise going. However, I'm going to make a UFC / mixed martial arts example here. And comment below if you agree or disagree. So in mixed martial arts and in sports in general, you have a moment in an athlete's life where all of a sudden, as Brendan Schaub says, Father Time touches you on the shoulder and tells you that it's time. And it's done. And you'll have these fighters, and I don't know any examples in other sports, but in UFC, for example, you'll have fighters who they get to a certain point, Father Time taps them, says it's time to stop, and they lose a fight. And they're like, no, I can't go out on a loss. But they no longer have that juice. They no longer have the killer instinct. But they're like, I have to go out on a win. So they'll fight, and they'll lose, and then they'll fight again, and then they'll lose, and it might continue. And all of a sudden, the great champ, the great hero, the undefeated person that you knew and loved has died. But then all of a sudden, there's that win. That win shows up. And it might not be against a top tier fighter. It may not be a top 5 or 10 fighter. But this person who used to be awesome, who then went on a lose streak, gets a win. And that's when they say, it's time to stop. You finally got your win. Stop now. But every so often, one of those fighters says, you know what? I should retire now. I made it. I got that final win. I could walk off into the sunset on a win. But maybe that's the win I needed to get back on track. Maybe that's the win I needed to get another title run. And you know what happens after that? They end up losing again. Every time they end up losing again. And that's what this movie has the potential of doing. So while I want another movie, and as I want them to continue this series, that I think this is it. I think if you stop now, as much as it sucks, let's go on a win. And it might not be a win in the box office, at least not now, but we know story-wise that it was good. They know it was good. And the hardcore fans who actually give this movie a chance, they know it's good. Stop it now. Say, you know what, guys? You're right. We'll walk away. We'll just walk away. And that's secretly, well, I'm telling you guys now this, but I think that's actually what I want. I want this to be the swan song. We now know that Judgment Day will never be stopped. We know that John Connor's dead. We know Sarah Connor is just a normal person now. Why not? Just keep it going. I mean, sorry. Why not? Just stop it now. Stop it now. And you know, they even the way that they killed off Arnold, I thought was kind of stupid because they've done this already. But why not? You know, he sacrificed himself. We got that. The new Terminator, she also sacrificed herself. You know, call it a day. I think it's a good spot to call it a day. I would love this movie to make money, but at the same time, if it does make a lot of money on the back end, of course they'll bring another one, and then that might ruin it. So I'm mixed there. I want you guys to see this movie, but I kind of don't want it to get too popular. I don't want it to go mainstream, if you would, because then they'll keep trying and then they might screw it up. So Arnold was amazing in it. Linda Hamilton, amazing in it. All the actors are amazing in it. It's a wrap. Let's just call it a wrap. Call it a day. Off into the sunset. They all have their money. They have their cash. I assume you got paid before it, so just call it a day. But that was a long video. And if you stuck around this long, you should definitely hit the like down below, and you need to tell me what you thought. Because if I'm talking this much and you're not responding, I'm just talking to nobody here. I want to hear what you think. Did you like the movie? Did you not even see the movie? Did you see the movie? Did I spoil it for you? I gave you the warning. Let me know down below in the comment section. What do you think about Terminator? Should there be another movie? Was it great? You guys know what to do. But don't forget, also hit the thumbs up down below if you like this video. Hit the bell so you get notified when new videos come out. But of course, you got to hit subscribe, because that's how you get me in the newsfeed. Lots of videos coming out next couple weeks. Lots of trailer reactions. I owe you guys a bunch of that. And I will see you guys in the next video.